I've got Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz speaking approximately Ripple's future and where they're heading. This could be very important due to the fact with XRP being certainly one of the most important property within the crypto enterprise, right? Ripple operating on shifting billions and billions of greenbacks, finally trillions of dollars an afternoon. I suppose it is actually vital to stop and have a moment and communicate approximately which the people which might be guiding the ship are heading the organization. Let's move in advance and jump into this. So David, in which are we today? How's the present day nation of the XRPL aligned with the vision you guys had whilst you first commenced this back in 2011? You know, it's been exciting. There were things that have kind of come out the manner that I assume I expected and matters that have just been completely wildly outdoor of my anticipation. I assume the manner in which that could be actually, can I interrupt you? I became like, can you guys hear him okay? Yeah, I'm right, just making sure. Thanks, amazing. I assume one of the things is institutional adoption has been form of a bit one of a kind than we anticipated. I suppose it's been, I think it became, in a few ways, it has been slower than we notion. In some approaches, it has been a whole lot quicker. I think institutional adoption from like non-financial establishments and non-monetary corporations has sort of been gradual. Their type of, I suppose we likely would have predicted greater of a bottom-up adoption where like ordinary human beings could be the use of crypto first, like democratized remittances as an example, and that kind of failed to manifest. But I assume what did happen, it's thrilling, is the form of financial machine become kind of ripe for adopting it. The way I think about it is tech has absorbed different industries like Tech 8 retail through organizations like Amazon and Tech 8 track with digital downloads and streaming offerings. I suppose tech is coming for finance, and I suppose we're on the grounds that with the institutional DeFi that we're seeing these days. These are extremely thrilling because they are institutional adoption, however they may be now, not much like Ripple become virtually early with institutional adoption for bills. However, that wasn't institutions that brought their clients to the blockchain. The client just made a price and the customer did not understand where to move. But I'm truly curious, when the original thoughts of beginning the XRP ledger, what were some of the motives you felt like, hey, we will construct a higher blockchain for bills? Like simply talk approximately maybe some of those early conversations of ways it commenced. I suppose the very earliest concept that we had is Bitcoin had just hit the public eye and we had simply began to learn about it. And I assume one of the matters that we found out is that even in case you thought, as many human beings did on the time, that Bitcoin might just take over the arena, it is like many different matters. You have a brand new religion, you observe nicely. If anybody simply believed the identical faith, it might be exquisite. But that could be any payment network, could be awesome if all people in the world had get right of entry to it. And we started out to realize that this concept that Bitcoin could some way solve interoperability because each person could use it for everything changed into just as naive as believing that any fee machine would kind of resolve interoperability. So what we started out to study with the XRP ledger at the beginning was we notioned the proof of work wasn't virtually going to exercise session. We have been kind of in advance of time. So first cracks have been acting in that narrative. And the other factor that we realized is like 99.99% of the sector's price wasn't in blockchain at the time and wasn't going to be inside the very near time period. So there needed to be, I wager, what we call today bridges. There needed to be connectivity. And so one of the first actual matters that we built into the XRP ledger was issued belongings, what we call strong cash these days. But and a DEX and this form of multi-asset, the concept which you might use the blockchain for agreement, however, that it wouldn't necessarily just be a local cryptocurrency. Yeah, it moves me as someone who wasn't there at the very beginning that the foresight you all had round such things as a DEX and AM, that surely, I mean, it changed into mana beforehand. And I suppose, in my opinion, the XRP ledger doesn't get enough credit for. Which I wager, I listen to you pronouncing it, truly was born of the notion that if 99.9% of all price isn't always on chain, you have to discover ways to clearly get it on chain, make it liquid, make it handy. Yeah, it is funny that those ideas really quick. So this is what, 12, 13 years in the past now, right? They understood David Schwartz, Arthur Britto, Jen McCallum, and the team that have been building out this destiny of how cash became going to move across the planet. They understood that, hey, Bitcoin has some issues and has some demanding situations, and what we want to do is address those demanding situations. And even looking back now, it is great how they determined to put in an AM proper. Decided to create something that you can, in reality, put any type of price proper from around the sector into the XRP ledger, and feature or not, it's transacted in just a few seconds for a totally little price proper. This is something that's manner ahead of its time. And you likely have the smartest human beings on the planet operating on the XRP ledger and blockchain at the time that XRP turned into created. Like, it does not get better than this, looking return, right? It's interesting, it's genuinely thrilling, like have names now. And on the time you recognize they, you know, we didn't call it a DEX, but like we built a DEX in 2012. We didn't name them strong cash, however, we had stable. You recognize we had strong cash inside the first within the very early releases. And we additionally had something that isn't always, not radical presently, however, became radical then, which changed into debts that you can manage. with Bitcoin, if you have a receiving deal with and you need to alternate that receiving deal with because you want to manipulate your finances one at a time, you need to change who can receive your bills, you need to deliver anybody a brand new address. It's very hard to promote it, this idea that an account being an element that you could have and control, that's alien to Bitcoin, however, a path. Ethereum is constructed around that concept. So, yeah, it became a form of interesting looking because the technology unfurled at a number of those standards, so Ethereum staked out its personal location inside the landscape. Yeah. There's rumors obtainable that Vitalik, he was an intern at Ripple before I changed into at Ripple. Tell us greater about that. Yeah, I mean, it is so sad. We are way off display screen something. It does not suggest. It's so sad that failed to exercise session. I imply, can you imagine the splendid things Vitalik may want to have executed at Ripple? No, however, severely, although Vitalik had some extraordinary ideas, approximately clever contracts on layer 1. And at one point he stayed on Stefan's couch, our CTO on the time, and he shared his thoughts. And we were glaringly very, very inspired that he had a clear vision, now not that a long way ahead of its time as it turned out. And he, without a doubt, stepped in, Thomas, myself, Arthur Brito at times, and Vitalik pointed out bringing layer 1 smart contracts to our layout. And interestingly enough, there have been a whole lot of motives why we failed to seize onto that concept again then. I bet you can argue we are a bit overdue to the party talking about that now, but I think it's an interesting counterfactual to imagine if Vitalik had persuaded Stefan, Arthur and I to build clever contracts into layer 1 at the XRP ledger within the early days. But I assume what we have been involved with is that it would, and you may see this with Ethereum, that it reasons the transaction fees to go up and it reduces the transactions according to second, then it does have expenses. And obviously you could argue approximately glaringly it has advantages as nicely. Well, so perhaps I'm transitioning again to a number of the stuff we are going to have to cow. I'm wondering in the event that they understood who they wanted their customer to be way back whilst they desired their customers to be financial institutions and banks. They failed to simply care about retail having their say. Because whilst you study Ethereum, if each person recollects how high-priced Ethereum was once in comparison to what it's miles today, it's not even near. I used to pay tens of heaps of bucks in gas charges whilst it came to Ethereum returned in 2021. If you were not around all through that bull market. A lot of stuff became taking place on Ethereum. There were some projects, node initiatives that I became invested in. And every time I could go to declare those nodes, I might order pay $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 just to claim the value on the one's nodes and the fee changed into a few $100,000. So don't get me wrong. I turned into virtually being profitable on the time. However, can you consider simply on a bigger scale, thinking about the general populace like humans that don't have tens of thousands of dollars to pay on gasoline expenses, like how that network turned into virtually now not designed for everybody on the time. Now, Ethereum has gotten way inexpensive with the advances through the years, but nonetheless, I like how David Schwartz and the crew understood that, hello, we don't want to make clever contracts and feature everyone building at the XRP ledger. We really need to aim this closer to economic institutions and banks. And I think they've stuck real to that. Now, are they going to increase smart settlement functionality within the future?